Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Friday. Today's guest brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Don't miss the game because your car needs servicing. Langley Chrysler will pick up, service, and drop off your car so you don't have to miss the action.
Yeah, it's so good.
Valet service only at langleychrysler.com. Comparisons.
Yep.
Mo Sider, big right-hander, Shea
Yep.
Weber. That's from Erica in Chilliwack. I think little bit the styles are a little bit different. I don't know if Mo Sider is as nasty as Shea Weber or has his shot. Mm-hmm. And Sider, he likes to lug the puck maybe more than Shea Weber does, but size-wise, right-handed-wise, maybe there's something there. 1-0 for the Red Wings over the Canucks, and with that we bring in Thomas Drance from The Athletic. How are you, sir?
Yeah, it was a quiet night for the Canucks at the office offensively. Not quite as quiet as the barbs being directed at Ryan Henderson today. I don't suspect he's going to be criticized as much for his take on the construction of this roster following last night, Donnie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, same goes for you. Hey, yeah. 18 shots allowed in the first period. What happened there?
It was a bad defensive effort. And that's what's so odd about this game is it's a 1-0 on the scoreboard. But that wasn't a 1-0 game by any means, right? Like, I don't think the Canucks were as hapless offensively as deserving to be shut out. The problem is I think what they probably deserved was 4 or 5 against. The Detroit Red Wings had 3 breakaways. They had multiple 2-on-1s. Demko was sensational in a loss to a team that was without their most experienced big minutes defenseman, without their top scoring winger, that had Jordan Osterley playing a top pair role, Olli Juolevi in the top 4, and had their starting goaltender chased in 6 of the last 8 games. You can't have that type of effort from this Canucks team, considering the stakes of this race, right? Like, that was not a loss that they can afford. They can't afford those sorts of letdowns, and it sets up to make the next 9 games just absolutely fascinating. I mean, we're at the point where there's 20 games left in the season. Canucks can maybe afford 5 or 6 more regulation losses. That's it. They have to play to a better point pace over the balance of the year than they played to under Bruce Boudreau in his first 37 games. And that's been an outrageous point percentage. So the margin is very slim. You've got a ton of elite teams coming up. You've got Calgary. You've got Colorado. You've got Minnesota.
St. Louis
twice. The Golden Knights twice. And I mean, that's what's so fascinating about this weekend and about the decision facing Canucks management. You have to be really sure if you're holding on to players like Tyler Mott, for example, a pending UFA, that you're not going to hold steady and double down on all the chips that this team has pushed into the center of the table on this season. And then by the end of this month, like forget mid-April, by the end of this month, you could already be out of it.
Yeah. Without added hope for the future. So how do the Canucks deploy their goaltenders? We talked about this a lot yesterday, assuming they were going to beat Detroit. But now that they've lost to Detroit, how do they deploy their goaltenders Saturday and Sunday?
You got to go Demko first. Yeah. You got to secure the 2 points against Calgary, or at least take your best shot against Calgary. You're not in a position where you can risk making that Buffalo game just an absolute must win, right? Like, you can't risk that. You need to do what you can against a tired Flames team. The Flames play tonight, right? You got to do what you can to load the dice and take your best shot right off the bat. And Halak's going to have to play in that Buffalo game. And, that's a big concern, but I'm almost more concerned, gentlemen, with what the Canucks are going to do with their defense. How are they going to deploy their defense? Like, this is a team, their top pair got chased. Their top pair got chased in the first period by the Detroit Red Wings. They were outshot 2-10 with Myers and Oliver Ekman-Larsson in the first period, and they quickly went away from them. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's deployment on the penalty kill is diminishing. His skating does not look the way it did earlier in the year. There's got to be something there. And you can see it in how that pair is playing. That pair has been so essential to what the Canucks have done under Boudreau. If they're not able to handle tough minutes, if they're not able to, get it done, I mean, what do the Canucks do on defense, Donnie? Like, what do they do?
Never mind what the Canucks do in defense. What are the Canucks doing on Monday, Thomas? Obviously, this weekend's results will play big in their decision-making on Monday morning.
Why? Why would they play big? Like, what does it matter? How can you not have seen enough? Hold it a second.
How can
you be making decisions based on 2 games? It's wild.
Because if they wake up Monday morning, Thomas, only one point out of the playoffs, they will make a difference in their thought process.
I mean, fine, but that's
you just said fine.
No. Let's just remember, like, that's fine in Canucks world, but on planet Earth, that is ridiculous. The idea that, like, oh well, they beat the Buffalo Sabres, no need to sell now. Like, the idea that a billion-dollar organization would make decisions based on the outcome of a hockey game, the most variable sport in the world. Like, what are we so 2 pucks ricochet into their net off of skates.
Okay, just answer the question.
I'm not even going to indulge the idea that this organization could possibly function in such a ridiculous way. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Have we not?
Thomas, it's a possibility.
Thomas,
you know that.
You know that the owner has had no playoff revenue for the last 10 years, or very limited of it. You think he wants to go another year? You don't. Then John Shannon told us yesterday they're losing tons of money.
Hey, if he keeps functioning the way that they have over the past decade, he'll go another decade, Rick.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you have to
listen to me.
At some point, if you want to be, like, fit, you gotta stop eating cake.
I
don't do that. That's why I'm not fit.
The
Canucks get fit here.
You're not fit because you put too much sugar in your coffee. Listen, you're the GM. What moves are you making Monday?
I mean, at the very least, I think you've got to either extend or deal Tyler Mott. That's like point blank. You have to. You cannot own rental.
I agree with that.
But that is bare minimum. Bare minimum. You have to either extend Mott, and my understanding is it's been quiet, although both sides are well aware of what it will take.
Yes.
But it's been quiet of late. So whether it's an extension or a trade, and it doesn't matter if it's a second or a third or something like that, like, you cannot continue to bleed value in unrestricted free agency the way that this team has done with Edler, Toffoli, Tanev, Markstrom, Verbata, Hamhuis, dating back decades, Jovo, Olin, Sala. Like, oh my goodness, stop it. You cannot do that repeatedly the way this organization has. It makes no sense. So that's bare minimum. I think a Halak trade would be a huge boon for this organization. Obviously, it's a complicated one to do. It's a 3-dimensional deal. It's not entirely in Jim Rutherford's hands or the Canucks' hands. Halak has a say too. But, at the bare minimum, if you can do those 2 deals, I think at least you've begun to move the needle in some ways. At least you've begun to create some flexibility. Personally, like, my bar for this Canucks deadline would have been creating $7.5 million in space. That would have been my bar of, like, what I'd have loved to see. So Halak would represent 1.25, for example, because of his bonus overage. I think it's probably too late in the game for them to do something that dramatic, but I mean, that would have been a really good start to the Jim Rutherford era. Instead, they're going to use the time they have on some of these key players who are still under team control, and we'll see what happens in the offseason. But, for me, the bare minimum, extension or deal for Mott, one of the two, and find a way on Halak. That's a tough one. I don't think I'm going to be super critical of the organization if they can't figure that out, just because it is such a complicated deal to do. But those are the 2 things I think, bare minimum, you have to do based on the fact that this team is more than twice as likely, gentlemen, to end up 5th in the Pacific Division than they are to make the playoffs.
All right, Thomas, quickly as you can, Dollywall has the stopwatch going. The player who's getting a lot of play in our Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox today, Twitter last night, today, all of that is Brock Boeser. What's in his future?
Oh man, it's a complicated set of sort of leverage points for Brock and the club, but the club didn't lose the game because Brock missed a couple of golden opportunities. Like, he had a really tough game. He almost was like a human monkey paw on the ice, the wishing monkey paw. Like, it was just one of those cursed games for offensive players. They go through them. Brock Boeser's a really productive player. He's a good goal scorer. More often than not, he comes away from that game with 2 goals. Mm-hmm. He didn't last night. I think the reaction to it, like, how are you blaming that game on Brock Boeser when no one else scored either? And the club surrendered 3 breakaways, 35 shots, 18 in the first period, and got outchanced 3-1 by this Detroit Red Wings team that was lacking Tyler Bertuzzi and Nick Leddy. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, that wasn't solely on Brock Boeser. Hey, by the way, you've got Cliff Ronning on.
Yes.
I love Cliff Ronning. He was legitimately my favorite player growing up. Absolutely. I loved the hustle. If he played today, he'd be Braden Point. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, wait, the game is more suited now to when Cliff played, and he still was able to play over 1,000 games and be productive. That sounds about right.
He was a first-line center for like a decade after he left Vancouver. And I don't think people have ever paid enough attention to the fact that this club never really recovered from losing him. I mean, they lose him after the 95-96 season. When was the next time they made the playoffs? 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, losing Cliff Ronning was sort of the death knell for that Pat Quinn era, in my view, anyway.
I told you to be quick. Now you're going on about the history of Cliff Ronning here.
Check. He's close to my heart. My favorite player growing up. I'm serious. Yeah,
Check.
I love Cliff Ronning.
Go check your blood pressure.
He's from the best part. Go ahead, Thomas.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'll decide whether or not to check my blood pressure, a crucial thing for my health, based on whether or not the Canucks beat the Buffalo Sabres.
Hey, we've talked about this.
Does that make any sense? No.
Okay,
why would it matter?
We've been through this. We got to get going here. We've been through it. And hey, don't call Dollywall when he's on one of his daily walks.
You know what? You pissed me off the other day. I'm on my walk. You call. He starts yelling like this. I screwed my whole walk up.
Rick just keeps repeating the record under Bruce Boudreau.
You keep being
Unfortunately, because the Canucks lost, Bruce Boudreau couldn't quite tie Willie Desjardins' 23 wins in his first 37 games.
Ooh. Oh. Okay.
1 win short.
Okay.
Cheers, boys.
Love the passion, Thomas. We'll say hi to Cliff for you. Okay.
Cheers, bye.
Okay.